Okay, Jed Borovik, welcome to Latent Space.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So we're sitting here at F.Inc.'s beautiful podcast studios, and we're actually meeting at GitHub Universe. How's it been so far?
It's been great. The keynote today was awesome. It was fun to see Jules up there a little bit. You know, we have a lot of folks from our team here. Jules is partnering with GitHub for the new Agent HQ stuff, which we're excited about. And also, this is an incredible podcast space. So yeah, I'm excited to do this here.
I'm glad for them to loan us this space. You're also an MC for AI Engineer Code. That's exciting in New York, where you went to college, but you don't live there anymore.
Yeah, no, I spent a bunch of time in New York. You know, it's funny being part of the New York tech scene. I actually think it's great having big major conferences there. Like I think, so there's a lot obviously that happens on the West Coast, but being someone in tech on the East Coast, it's just awesome to have stuff there. So
you mentioned you fly over to SF a lot, and what's the scene like in the East Coast? Like obviously we are pretty new. We're like, this is our first year coming to New York. What else happens in the New York? Like, what are the highlights for you in the New York tech scene?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much. There's obviously a ton of great companies. I think the thing that's interesting about New York is it's such a big city with so much going on. Right. And so there's tech is a huge part of it, but there's also, so many major industries there, whether it's
fashion,
media, fashion, finance, like it's, and in some ways, I think that helps push the tech, and do all kinds of stuff. But yeah, the East Coast is a great city, all the schools, there's, all across the East Coast, ton of great schools and great students doing all kinds of stuff. So yeah, I went to school there. The hackathon scene there was amazing. Really fell in love with tech and programming there. So
is there a big NYU hackathon like in Stanford with like Cal Hacks and stuff?
Yeah, so there's
Tree Hacks.
Yeah, there's one that was put on by, this was a while ago, but we put on by NYU and Columbia. We do together Hack NY. So there's a bunch of events kind of that we did together. It would bring people across New York City, students across New York City, and those are super fun. Yeah, so it'd be the Columbia one time, and then NYU the next, and it would cycle back and forth. So yeah, a lot of cool stuff was made there.
Nice. So you've been at Google for a while, 9 years. You worked on a bunch of things, including with Malta, which is also another guest that I'm interviewing today. How do you get into Jules? Like, what's the AI journey?
Yeah, so this is going to sound really cheesy, but I've told the story a couple times to folks when they're like, "Oh, how'd you end up, doing this?" But it is actually very true. So I worked on search for a long time, and specifically kind of like news and freshness, and then when Stable Diffusion came out, that to me was the first GenAI moment. I know people talk about ChatGPT as the first thing, but for me, Stable Diffusion, it was a couple months before ChatGPT came out. It was a huge thing. And I was following it a ton online, and there were two groups of creators having reactions to it. There was one group that was, this is stealing my art. This is stealing everything that's near and dear to me. I hate this. This is ruining my life. And there was another group of artists and creators who were like, "Oh, this is a tool to create better art." And so I was watching it.
It's a new brush.
Yeah, exactly. And right around then, I was having conversations with a couple people who would say things like, if I had a kid in college, I wouldn't recommend they study computer science. I was like, what? And this was, long before Jensen Huang and people had been saying this kind of stuff. And I was like, why? And it was like, oh, AI, software engineering is going to change. It's going to be so, who knows if there are going to be jobs. And I was like, I love being a software engineer. I love programming. And I was like, wait. This is my Stable Diffusion moment. This is either it's going to take my art, my craft. This is a tool to create better art. And I was like, I definitely know which path I'm taking. So I got very into building coding. So I was still working on search, but I spent a bunch of time making stuff in my own time and playing with things, and ultimately tried to find a role that would the most exciting role I could find to do this stuff, and that was to join Google Labs and Jules, where we were right around then we're starting to build these kind of coding agents at Google, and the timing worked out well, and I joined, and it's been awesome.
Can you, since we're talking about Google Labs, I am actually unclear about where Google Labs starts and the rest of, and then DeepMind and the rest of Google. Like, what is the org chart layer?
Yeah. That's a great question. So Labs' mission is to build kind of new, innovative products that the rest of Google isn't well positioned for.
Yeah, which we've had the rise from Notebook LM.
Yep, exactly. So Notebook LM is maybe the most wide, the most.
Yeah, and then Nano Banana. I don't know if it's.
Yeah. So the thing that's really exciting about Labs is we work incredibly closely with DeepMind.
Yeah.
Right. So all the stuff in terms of we're building the product, but we work so closely for the model. And one of the nice things about being at Google is you have this opportunity to really build an end-to-end AI product, right? From like pixels on the page through the infrastructure, through, the model and the training and all of that loop. So Labs is here to build new products, and we're really like a product org, but a true AI product org where we work incredibly closely with DeepMind, but also, other parts of Google, as it makes sense.
Yeah. Just on the history of AI coding, I had heard that actually Google had an internal version of Copilot or something like that was never released. Is that true? What can we say about it?
Yeah. So, I think there are, Google has published papers in this space for a while. And so, we have, being Google, we built a lot of our own tools, and Cider, which folks maybe have heard of, is our internal IDE, and we've had all kinds of capabilities and tools there for a while. So yes, we certainly have had pretty good tools for a while, but they were for internal use.
Yeah. I think it was interesting because I think the one of the hype moments when Google started getting into the sort of like LLM game, like basically when everything rebranded to become Gemini and like starting to push out Gemini, where people were like, oh, like, did you know that Google's entire repo is probably about the same size as GitHub? And like, there must be some interesting data in there.
Oh yeah. I mean, and that's one of the things, in building a lot of these internal systems, the data is incredible.
Yeah.
Especially when it's, not only is the model and the training in-house, but all the data around the usage and whatever. So, we could build really kind of sophisticated things there.
Yeah. Okay, so let's introduce people to Jules. Yeah. On your website says Jules Autonomous Coding Agent. We've seen lots of these.
Yeah.
They're not octopuses, they're not purple. So you got that going for you. But like what really is like the core thing you're trying to nail in a very crowded coding agents landscape?
Yeah. So what we think about and what we set out to do, back when I joined, was like, where are coding agents going to go? And as these models get more and more powerful and sophisticated, and what is that experience going to be? And let's build for that future, right? And so when you think of a really powerful agent that can run for a really long time, doing really complicated things, that's when like the products start to take shape for us. So for example, autonomous, means like it has its own computer, right? So for Jules, it's,
the VM.
Yeah, exactly. So tons of agents that run, locally or in your workspace with you while you're coding. But if you want something that's going to run for hours or let's say days, you might want it to have its own environment where it can do its own work. So that's, just one of the pieces that's important for kind of this autonomous coding agent, but it's really like, think about this future where they're incredibly powerful. You can spin up tons of them, right? They're autonomous, but also, we're thinking about what does it mean for it to be ambient, right? Like it's kind of when it has its own infrastructure, its own computer, and its own ways to interact with it. How does that start to change what it can do? For example, like we have an API. So people are using it for all kinds of things, triggering it from, when something happens. And we saw an example where they're triggering Jules to do kind of all kinds of updates to their site. And then they have a GitHub action that is going to automatically merge Jules pull requests. So it's just like all kinds of stuff is flowing, really kind of changing how people are able to do stuff. And
is the CLI related, just to close that loop?
Yeah, CLI. So we also have a CLI, which is, we want to meet developers where they are.
Yeah.
Right? And so part of the, an API is like you can trigger it from anywhere, but also, when you're working locally, like you want to be able to trigger stuff. So So we have the Jules CLI we launched a couple weeks ago, which lets you interact with it. By the time this podcast comes out, we'll be integrated with the Gemini CLI.
Jed, so I was thinking, like, you have a number of CLIs, I'm not sure.
Exactly.
Okay.
So Gemini CLI, all kinds of places where we're going to kind of mix and be able to harness this power, right? Because developers work in all kinds of spots, and so making it easy to have this autonomous ambient agent that can really do all kinds of work for you.
Yeah. What is your journey like? When you started out, like, did you find any assumptions that were quickly challenged, when working with GenAI and coding agents in general? Like, I guess you're maybe not too unfamiliar with it because search uses a lot of like machine learned, like black boxy type things, including BERT, which, was a major update a few years ago. So I mean, just fill us in. Like, what is your AI engineering journey?
Yeah, totally. So I think one of the things that keeps coming up is like the model makes such a difference. I mean, maybe it sounds obvious, but it's like the quality of the model really changes like what you're able to do and how you engineer around it. So for example, when we started, this was, with relatively early models of Gemini, we had the agent scaffolding around it was incredibly complex. I think one of the things we've seen is scaffolds get simpler and simpler over time as the models get better. And in some ways, the scaffolding is almost a crutch for things the model struggles with. For example, like, really complicated sub-agent systems. We've played with that. We've experimented with that.
Can you give an example of like a kind of sub-agent that you had to abandon?
Yeah, it was just basically like you have, you give Jules a coding task to do, and it's going to have different agents for whether it's making a code edit or handling a sub problem or doing any kind of action with an integration or and having like full sub agents for different parts of it, like a reviewer agent, or even like sometimes people do these like different personas where you're like, one of the things that cracked me up is like, you're the product manager agent, and then you have the code reviewer agent, tech lead agent. So we didn't go that far, but I think a lot of these things aren't as in favor now. I mean, certainly people do, they like, I don't want to say the agent harness isn't sophisticated. It certainly is, but as the models get better, like less is more, especially as it comes to like being able to improve through whether it's machine learning or just, regular maintenance. I think certainly we found that, we're finding that less is more. I think that, that we were talking about a little bit before we started recording, like the like RAG, right? And like,
code-based indexing
and all that stuff. And, it seems like, not just for Jules, but kind of across the industry, that like agent-based search, right? Like it's, maintaining embeddings is hard, but getting the chunking right is hard. Like in terms of like the black box aspect you mentioned, a lot of that is hard to improve upon. And
yeah, I would even say it's maybe not even hard so much as it will never be good.
Yeah. Well, tell me more. Why do you say that? Never?
Because like a chunk that happens to capture the thing you're looking for, will fail to capture something else. And so if you only retrieve based on like your embeddings of a chunk, like it uses very arbitrary boundaries that are drawn like with like some hope of like the semantics being captured. But you could just throw attention at it.
Oh, yeah.
And you can scale probably much better using grep. Like
totally. So I think that's an example of in these harnesses how like they're simplifying.
Yeah. Well, so I haven't abandoned it completely because one of the things that we were doing, I don't know if you saw the Cognition SweetGrep work, was basically using semantic search and chunks and with embeddings as a tool. Yep. But it on the same level as the other tools like grep and file access and glop and whatever else other variants you have. So I think like that, I mean that makes sense. Like don't abandon it. Just don't reify it into the only way to do things.
Exactly. And to be clear, like this is an area of research we're doing tons of work on, and I actually expect in the coming months we'll be talking about some stuff we're doing here too. But it's not I feel like when we started, it was like RAG. It was like embedding-based RAG.
Yeah.
It was like the thing everyone did. And it's interesting to see how it's changed.
People ask me for like, where are the code embedding models? And, I pointed them to like a few like Chinese ones. There's some like Nomic was working on one. And then like we found we didn't need them.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Very bitter lesson. So I think like that these are good things. Like I think like when Jules came out, it was kind of a preview. I'm in the trusted testers group, so I got to see a little bit. But now it feels like more of a real product.
Yeah.
What's that transition like? Is there a process within Google Labs to promote things when you feel like there's some traction?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the Google Labs is not about just experiments, right? So like, Notebook LM, as we talked, is like
it's now very serious.
It's incredibly successful product.
Makes real money.
It's really, and for us, IO was kind of a little bit of a turning point. So in May, when we announced Jules, it was like great reception following IO. And that was a real moment of us to like turn this into, a very much a real thing. I mean, it's something that we always intended to. It wasn't ever intended, I didn't, talk about my journey. Like, it was always the goal to build like a real product here. But for us, that was kind of a very key moment, very key milestone for us. And so, now it's, it's very much a real thing. We were, as mentioned, talking before, like, Jules and the being talked about in the GitHub keynote. It's certainly here to stay. We're excited to kind of keep building and expanding.
Awesome. Let's talk about just like coding engines in general. You're coming to MCD AIE Code Summit. It's gonna be your first time at AIE and the MC. What do you want to know?
Yeah. Well, tell me why would someone want to?
Oh gosh.
Let's turn it around.
Oh boy, this is embarrassing. So I mean, fortunately, we're in our fourth year now, and we have a bunch of prior art we can just point people to and say, look at our YouTube. You like that? You'll like this.
There's some great talks. I haven't been before, but I've watched the talks.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, and I'm proud that it features content from all labs. And basically, we are like this is a pattern I've seen across my career in terms of like every industry needs its like focal gathering point to just like trade tips and stuff. So I've seen that in JavaScript. I've seen that in cloud native. I've seen that in data engineering, and I was like, probably AI engineering will need something like this. And then I also, the concurrent thread to this was I went to a bunch of the academic ML conferences, NeurIPS, ICML, iClear. And a lot of them, like NeurIPS is 40 years old and it hasn't really changed and is very focused on academics and PhD students. Whereas I think really, the transition in AI going from research to industry is that you gradually see a shift. Unfortunately, less open source, less papers, and more products and more startups and closed models and what have you. But people still want to share. People still want to hire. They want to promote their work. So they need a place to do that. You can always do that at your company conferences, obviously I/O, and like GitHub has GitHub and Microsoft has Build and Ignite. But like there usually is one place where it's like the industry neutral thing where everyone is on the same playing field and may the best person win. Yeah. And like honestly, some people like that. It's not like you're not going to be treated as like the VIP and like, you kind of have to like earn your spot. But like when you earn your spot, I think like people give that requisite level of attention better because you had to.
Yeah, cool. So, let's say I've watched the videos online. I kind of get a sense for the speakers. But what's happening between that for someone who hasn't been before? Like what goes on other than the talks? Like
a lot of it's just logistical stuff of like invoicing and like vendor selection and venue selection and like, did you know we have like 5 different pieces of software to like coordinate speaker logistics and booth logistics and
board as an
AV
an attendee. So I'm gonna sit.
Oh yeah, sorry.
But what am I gonna
get? So actually it's really weird because like as I'm the content guy for AIE, right? I curate the speakers, I invite them. Right. And but I actually know that the content is like the least important part because all of it's filmed and we're going to edit it and post it for free on YouTube anyway. But the reason you come is because you can talk to the speakers, but also you can talk to each other. And so like I always say like the hallway track is the most important track.
Yeah. How do you get the most out of the hallway track? What's your guide? Beginner's hallway track.
I don't have as collected a thoughts as I should. One, I think if you have some prior history of like what you're interested in and work on. So basically like the best intro to somebody is if they've seen you online before, so they can skip the whole like who the hell are you part and just get into like, well, hey, I saw you wrote that thing, like let me talk to you in person about it since we're both here. That's way better than like who are you, what do you do? And that's like a very cold interaction. Ideally people come warm or they can come with some clear idea of like, here's why I'm here. Here's what I'm looking to get out of this. Because if you show up with like no real intention, or if you're like in and out for your thing and nothing else, then you don't have the space and the mental energy for the unstructured serendipitous connections. And the thing about AIE, at least in our scale, our size right now, especially for the summits, which is the one that you're going to, everyone had to apply to get in. So usually, our first summit, we had like something like a 10-to-1 applicant to invited spots ratio. This one's going to be, when it went up to like 10 to 16 to 20 something, this one's going to be 23.
So 1 out of 23 people who applied to get in.
Yeah. So like, it's a lot. I think like, and really was trying to filter for people who would be speakers at any other conference, but like they are the top of the field. They're either founders or honestly enterprise buyers of the best companies you can find in New York, which and that's another reason for our New York conference, which is we're bringing kind of the best of San Francisco or tech to the finance sector, really.
Yeah.
There is a little bit of media, but mostly finance.
Yeah.
And that's great. Like, I mean, I think, so what I'm trying to say, I guess, is you're there to meet the other people. So make time to meet them, have a calling card, like, who are you? Like a quick, like, who are you? What do you do? What can you help with? What are you looking for help for? Yeah. That kind of intro stuff is really good. Going with friends is really good. Obviously, like we actually offer, for the World Tour, we offer bundle discounts. This one I don't think we do, but just reach out if you need something. But yeah, I mean, like I think like the idea of getting immersed in the code agent community is really important. And I think maybe the last part I'll bring up is that we themed it for the first time, right? So you used to be, these are just generalists. Here's the state of AI, the best speakers we can get at any point in time. But now we're really trying to push ourselves to theme everything. So we have the best people in code, the best people in data sets, the best people in RL. I want to do a mech and terp one. That'll be fun.
Cool.
That one I'm thinking will be in London because the people I want to target are in London. Yeah. But yeah, I think like when you do a summit, it should be focused. Everyone there should have an agenda of like trying to learn what's the state of the art, trying to have off the record conversations with their peers, doing the same thing at the other companies. And who knows what could happen? Like that's the weirdest thing. Like I organize the thing and I don't even know half the things that go on just because my job is to provide the nexus of people to just connect. Yeah. Last time we were in New York, there were 13, maybe 15 side events organized by people, just like dinners, meetups, whatever, around the summit. And we encourage it. We posted, and we just want people to meet up.
Yeah, I was going to ask, is there a whole like off menu set of events happening? Like how do people know?
They organize it. Honestly, if you're not scared of strangers, you should organize your own, like a little dinner. We leave all the evenings open. Okay. So just like organize a dinner or a meetup, focus on your thing. Like we have people doing only voice. So if you want to do voice, great. If you want to do like code review agents as a small subset of generalist coding agents, do that. And I think you find it, right? Like, or you can do like AI in finance, AI in bio, whatever this particular sector might be. And I think like, that is honestly the highest signal way to get a bunch of people who really resonate with your thing to meet and have like high bandwidth conversations.
Yeah. Are you going to do the autonomous coding agent dinner?
Well, no. My job is to float. Yeah. My job is to handshake, ask how everyone's doing, fight fires. So I tend to just leave myself open until the end. But yeah. It'll be a sprint. It's always a mad rush, and because then I have to do my own talk, I don't know yet. I think so far. So like the last time I did this summit, I was talking about how this year had to like develop as the year of agents. And like it's really played out a lot. Yeah. Obviously now the trendy thing is to say it's not just the year, it's a decade of agents. Right. But like this year, I think agents really took off and most people got it right. Like the consensus was correct. You don't have to be too spicy or counter consensus to say like if you worked on an agent, you're probably a lot better off. You probably made a lot of progress this year. And maybe you can tell me how it feels from the Jules point of things. I didn't see myself at the start of this year joining an agent company, and I ended up doing that. But like I've gone so agent pill to the point where like people come to me with startup ideas for infra companies. They're like, "What if we made an agent framework so that other people couldn't build agents?" And I'm like, "Well, don't you just build agents yourself, bro?" Like
there are a lot of these frameworks,
frameworks and infra companies, and all of these guys are just like they're good developers with no conviction whatsoever in what they want to build. They don't know what customer they want. They're just like, we want to build developer tools so that's where we feel comfortable. Yeah. But honestly, it's not that hard to actually take a stand and be full stack and verticalize in some particular agent field that you want. Because guess what? They like the business and the economics are aligned that way. Yeah. And I'm not saying that you cannot make it as an infra company. There's some fantastic infra companies that are sponsors and like that I admire and I would invest in myself. It's just that comparatively, those are a lot harder. And like agent companies seem like they're shooting fish in a barrel. They seem like they're ramping up in ARR a lot faster, and you seem like their margins are better. So why not?
Yeah. So I mean, I think for us, it's really been you're the agent. Like as the models, what was we talking about? Like let's build Jules for where things are going. And as the models get better, I think it just becomes clearer and clearer that agents are super powerful. Like we have, we were talking about like before high context and management, so all that stuff's important. Like we have people, this is a funny story. We store some data for a session, but it only lasts, we only store it for 30 days. And so after 30 days, your session becomes locked. And when the first users first started hitting that, they were upset. We were like, there's no way anyone's going to be using a single session for 30 days. Like, people doing a single track of work for 30 days. But just like how powerful that can be. So yeah.
How do you compress context when you run into it?
Yeah, so we have, I can't talk too much about it, but we do a lot of the standard things, and there's also, we're developing a bunch of stuff. It's an active area of research for us.
Yeah, I think like just to, I'm not asking you for how exactly Jules does it. Yeah. There's just a number of approaches, right? And you just have to pick one, because you can't just use up your 2 million token context window. Is it 2 million? It is up to 2 million.
Yeah. Especially for coding agents, because like you're reading files, like you're running commands with huge outputs. Like I think coding agents are a really interesting area, both product-wise and the impact they're having, but also for research.
Yeah.
Like they really push the limits of, what other domains are you running an agent for 30 days? And what other domains are you accumulating so much context and so many turns? And so it's coding agents are, I think, kind of a special spot of like super interesting product, impact, research.
Yeah. I see the AMP folks drop the auto compaction for a handoff mechanic, which was pioneered by the Agents SDK, which is basically the subagents pattern where like you spin up a subagent, do a thing. You don't need all their context that subagent's doing, and then you can sort of come back to the main thread.
Totally. Yep. So it's a good pattern. It also has its challenges, like how do you make sure enough stuff, information is going back and forth, but that's the pattern. The summarization's a pattern. Like kind of externalizing some of that context, whether it's like writing it to, like a note kind of thing is a common pattern. So yeah, there's tons of things to try and do.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I do want to get more consensus about is what is the best, because I don't think I've read any papers about which methods compare better.
Yeah. It's also interesting, like as models change, like the answers change a little bit too.
Yeah. Claude, you probably know, Claude externalizes too much.
Yeah. Yeah.
How much does your work actually like? I feel like I switched back to Jules mode.
Yeah. Keep free flowing here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like how much does your work inform the model creation, right? Like at the end of the day, like you obviously are a very big consumer of Gemini models, but also you are not the only consumer, and they have other priorities than you.
Yeah. Totally. I mean, I think we're lucky in kind of how we're positioned to. We have really close relationships with DeepMind. So we have, and coding agents are an important area. Like, let's be honest, right? Like for any kind of company building models, like you can see it in all the labs. Like coding agents are important. Coding capabilities are really important.
Yeah, my OG image of the AIE code, I wrote something obnoxious like code is the first spark of AGI.
Yeah.
Which is like probably true.
Totally. It's important from kind of an AGI perspective. It's important from a dollars perspective. It's important for all of it. So it's, I think we're in a really lucky position where we have, we're able to have a lot of kind of good collaboration and but both ways, like all kinds of capabilities that are being developed. And, and it's interesting. It's a whole host of things, right? Because, in terms of like AGI and the capabilities of things, it's also like computer use models and browser use models. And so it's models that output code, but it's also the whole suite of, things that you want an intelligent agent to be able to do. So it's, multimodal, it's all kinds of stuff that goes into it. So it's,
What would you want to find out from your peers at other coding agent companies? Because you're going to meet all of them basically.
Yeah. So I think one thing, and I don't think of this as a zero-sum thing. I think this is like really like there's this tide that's going to lift all of our boats, and we're inventing a new way to do our art, right? And how to create good art as a software engineer. And so, what does that look like, and how does that feel? What is that? What is the experience we want to create? I think as people working in AI, sometimes we don't do a good enough job describing this beautiful future we're creating. I mean, I know like the CEOs and heads of these labs have started like writing their think pieces on this, but right, for software engineers, like what is this beautiful future we're creating? And like, I think that's like one, it's inspiring. It makes it, maybe less scary for people who are thinking about these tools. But also, like, if we can't articulate it and think about it, it's less likely we'll get there, right? So, like, what is this, great place we want to create? Like, writing software is so hard. Like, it's so many companies. It's such especially like big companies, it becomes so challenging to manage a code base and create. And what can we do to make, being a software engineer an absolutely incredible experience? What are these, how do you want to interact with your model? How are you doing things locally versus in the cloud, and how does that interop? And so I think, like, as an industry, we're trying to, like, it's changed. Like, we're in some ways inventing, and there's this movement to change how we do our art. And yeah, the more the better we can create this experience. Like, we all win to some degree. So I think that'd be one thing where it's like,
yeah, the local to cloud sync is the most contentious or important, I guess, topic for a lot of people. I wonder if we'll ever get like some kind of interop thing. Probably not. But man can dream.
Tell me more about what's your dream? What's your dream flow here?
I don't know. Start with Jules CLI, end up in Devon. I don't know.
Between agents and companies.
It's probably meaningless. So no, but like I'm not actually serious about it. But like
Borovik to me, I'll send track.
I think Codex, or is it Cloud Code? Cloud Code Web can do this teleport.
Yep.
Where they just basically dump like the entire history, and you can pick it up in Cloud Code on your desktop, and probably that's the right move.
Yeah.
Maybe there's some more sort of elegant things, but they were first, so like, why not?
Yeah.
And actually maybe the real thing is, maybe it's not the conversation. Maybe you don't need to teleport if the artifact that you pass back and forth is the linear ticket or the GitHub PR. Right? So you don't need the full JSON. You don't need the full chat history. You just need to pick up where other people left off, because that's how humans do it.
Right.
Like, I don't transfer my brain state to you. I just tell you what I did.
Yeah.
And then, if I forgot to say something, you find out eventually.
Right. You say, like, the cloud agent, like, dumps some kind of summary onto the ticket or whatever kind of it needs to pass on to the next.
In Slack or linear and whatever.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think there are some patterns emerging, the like IDE, CLI, cloud, right? Like these are the pieces.
VS Code extension.
Yeah, VS Code. Yeah, like whether it's
which you guys don't have yet.
VS Code extension. So there's a like the surface area is like standardizing. It feels a little bit, how these things interop, how you can kind of make this like great experience between all of those. Yeah, I think it's really interesting.
Yeah, I think like, and then the other point, I just want to backtrack a little bit to something else you said, which is like what the thick pieces that these CEOs and stuff do. I think there's a lot of question about the impact that coding has on the software engineer industry in general, the humans. Do we stop hiring juniors altogether? Is it actually increasing productivity, or do you just feel like you're increasing productivity? I don't know if you have any take on that stuff.
Yeah, it's totally so. I mean, it's something I spend a lot of time talking and thinking about with folks. And I also spend time talking to people at companies, and I think sometimes working on these tools, it's interesting to see. It's not as like diffused. This technology isn't as diffused across software engineers as I would sometimes expect. Right? There's plenty of places that I think are not really using AI a ton. A lot of companies, a lot of software engineers aren't. That being said, I'm very kind of excited about what the future of software engineers are. Like, could you imagine going back to not having these tools?
No.
Like, that sounds horrible, right? Like that. And so that's one aspect of it. I also think, I don't really buy this, like, that we're not going to hire more software engineers story. I think, like, for a few reasons. I mean, this is an example that often comes up, but is it like kind of the elasticity of the demand for software?
Okay. Jevons paradox.
Exactly. Yeah. And, a lot of the cases sometimes come up as you look at like farming, right? And so, there was a time in America where like the vast majority of Americans were farmers, right? And then technology happens, and today it's like less than 1%.
Yeah.
And that's one example. But the flip side of that is you have electricity, which, like, as that gets cheaper and cheaper, people just consume more and more and more electricity. And, with food, there's only so much food we're going to eat, right? There's a kind of there's an inelastic demand for that, whereas electricity, very elastic demand. And it seems like software keeps getting better and better. Like the ability, like we're creating more and more software from like, obviously like punch cards to where we are today is like remarkably different in terms of how you're able to create software. So much more software is being made, and software just keeps becoming more and more of our GDP, right? Like it's a. So I'm bullish on kind of the amount of software we'll be able to create, how it'll be created. I think there's also something here about, as an engineer, being able to be more productive, like encourages more investment in people building software, right? If it's, the job of a software engineer can now, they can do 50% more, 100% more, 10x more, like justifying investment dollars into projects like dramatically changes, right? And so, I'm bullish on this idea that is actually going to be great for software engineers, both for our ability to kind of do our craft, our art, but also just what it means for the number of companies and the amount that's made and the quality of it and what we're able to do with it. So, that's my rose-colored glasses take.
Rose-colored glasses, indeed. I have this take on the different kinds of work. Like we're splitting up the different kinds of software work, and there's a lot of commoditized work that we used to spend a lot of time on, and now we can basically entirely delegate to agents. And then that leaves us ideally for more strategic, important, novel, high risk, whatever work, deep focus work that is something I posted here on the semi-async valley of death, where basically you kind of need to. On the extreme end, you can delegate to async agents, which Jules, Cloud Code, whatever. But then over here, you kind of need the sort of deep involvement in understanding the code base and like not vibe coding, whatever the opposite of it is. Actually, that's my talk, which is I've been thinking about this.
Okay.
So I tweeted out like this phrase because I feel it's in the air that like the term vibe coding was obviously coined by Andre, and he's super influential in February. And like people have just come to kind of use it as a blank check to just YOLO on prompts and stuff, and create the worst code imaginable and like leave other people to clean it up. So I think like people are kind of at their limits with this. Like it's probably maxed out in terms of popularity. But we don't have yet what's next.
Right.
So my talk is really challenging every attendee, every speaker to come up with like what is the aspirational good version of vibe coding that we can actually trust.
Yeah, what is it?
Well, like
it's the punchline right now. What is it?
I mean, the current leading candidate is agentic coding, which is what Dharmesh Shah, who's like, I don't know if you know who Dharmesh is. He's pretty good track history when he's naming things. It's just too many syllables. I don't think it just has it doesn't have the joy that vibe coding invokes, which I think people want. But then people also want care and craft and like reliability and all that stuff.
But if we don't have the term, I describe it. Maybe we don't have a catchiest phrase for it. But what does it look like, even if we don't have the phrase?
That's a great question. We have some speakers who are going to be pitching spec-driven development that you have to really be thoughtful and effectively write a PRD. I think like that is obviously very correct in terms of like basically it's just a glorified prompt, but a very, very, very good one. And models are tuned to follow your prompt for good and for worse. If you prompt sloppily, you're going to get slop. So a spec sounds good. I think I don't know how often it'll be followed in practice, because effectively what that transitions us to is a waterfall development approach where you spend 3 days writing a 50-page document and then you kick off the agent. That doesn't seem right. So like, obviously I have some bias here because Cognition has from the start believed in interactive planning, where like you kick off a thing, you get some feedback, then you're like, oh, that's not what I meant. Let me correct myself, because I don't know what I wanted when I started. So you work with the machine to discover what you wanted, and the machine works with you to either get you what you wanted or show you the errors of your ways, and then you correct it from there.
Yeah, I mean, one thing we talk about, which very aligned with what you're thinking, is like they're kind of like two problems as these things get better. One is like, how do you specify what you want? And the other one is, how do you verify that what you got is what you're thinking? And so, whether it's, specifying through a spec or this like, interactive plan or whatever it is, but then, and then on the flip side with the vibe coding thing is you might specify, but you're never to come back and verify, right? It's more hands off the wheel. Like maybe I'll click around the app a little bit and see how it works, but it's, I'm not really engaged with the code. So how do you verifying and making sure that it's,
To my knowledge, you guys don't emphasize tests that much, right? It's not like you volunteer to write my tests.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. Like we, if there are tests in your code base,
it's right. It's right out of the picture here. Jules will run your test suite.
Exactly. So,
but it's not like after everything must have a matching test to the prompt that was mentioned.
No,
that would be the extreme of what we mentioned.
I don't know if people always want that. I mean, maybe it'd be helpful to do that to kind of show that it was right. But let's say I don't write tests in my code base. Like I want to merge that pull request that is introducing tests just for this one thing. Like, I think in some ways the engineer should be able to control what kind of outputs they want.
Yeah.
If it helps and they want it, absolutely.
And then do you think there's other innovations on specifying apart from just chat?
Oh, totally. I mean,
agents MD.
Yeah, agents. I mean, Spec-driven development, I think, is in this category. I think one of the is like multimodal, right? Like, if I'm going to show you a bug on our website, like, do I want to come and like type it with words to describe it, or am I going to point at the picture?
Yeah.
And so, with Jules, you can upload images now, but kind of more. We have certain ways we communicate as humans that are easier in certain situations than others.
Yeah.
Let's bring that to our engagement with the agents.
So of all people, I expect you guys to be best at this because Gemini has video understanding. I want to submit a video because some things cannot be screenshots.
Yep.
It's more about the behavior of things appearing and disappear. I mean, I would love that if you guys did it, because no one has it yet.
I know, I would love it too. I'll tag you with an announcement.
On my side, the version of that we're exploring is computer use.
Yeah,
computer use was kind of introduced by Anthropic, and then OpenAI did their toe in with Operator, and now agent mode in Atlas. I don't know if you guys have done anything super splashy on computer use, but anyway, it's coming back. I can feel it.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, definitely. And, it ties into, coding agents. It ties into just, using AI systems in general.
But basically your VM now needs to render a UI or a browser, and then you need to let the agent click around in it.
Absolutely.
And you need to have precision and speed and cost and affordable cost.
Yep.
It's a lot.
Working on this projects are so fun. There's just so much to build. There's so much. I think also as a software engineer working in this space, like I think one of the reasons you see so many companies in this space is partly like it's just so fun. Like there's so many things to build. There's so many tools that seem like fun sci-fi. Like it brings up a demo of what I've worked on. It's clicking around and I can see a video of it, or I can even take over and use it.
Awesome. Okay, so just moving towards wrapping up. If people run into you at AIE, they heard your pitch on Jules.
Yeah.
What else should they also talk to you about? Like, what can you help with versus what are you looking for?
Anyone should feel free to come up and talk to me, at any point. Obviously very interested in anyone who's doing stuff with coding agents or someone who's using coding agents in interesting ways. I'm always curious about, workflows people have with their coding agents, whereas, whether it's, hey, I'm using this tool in this way and I've, configured this crazy thing. Like I always love hearing how people are using it. I also love hearing people who are having bad times with it, where it's like, actually, I don't, maybe they're not coming to this conference, but, I've tried all these cool tools and I don't like them and I don't use them, and here's why. So, I'm totally open for any side of the, all the way from, full AI pilled and coding AI lovers to people who hate it. As far as what I'm looking for, I think, really just going to kind of connect and meet people. I think, we are always hiring. So like, anyone who's, interested in working on this stuff, I'm always happy to talk. But yeah, really just kind of, meeting people, spending time geeking out on this stuff.
Yeah, there'll be lots of geeking out.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for your time. Looking forward.
Yeah, same.